Thank you, Dorothy, and the Dynamic Women of Faith Conference Organizing Committee for inviting me to speak today at this absolutely beautiful and uplifting conference. I've been a Catholic Mothers Group co-leader at St. Teresa's Parish in Etobicoke for the last 2.5 years. And today I wanted to share a testimonial and reflection on discerning God's will in our lives, especially as it relates to the vocation of motherhood. Have you ever watched one of those crime or mystery dramas that feature the doctor performing an autopsy and reporting the postmortem results to a detective or a policeman or something like that? So my mom likes to remind me that ever since I was in my early teens, that doctor, known as a forensic pathologist, that was the only job I ever envisioned myself doing. So from a very young age, I'd been academically inclined. I set a very high standard for myself, for everyone around me, really. I consistently worked hard, showed a very fierce determination, and persisted aggressively in reaching all of my goals. As I gained insight into what was required to make me a strong candidate for medical school, I realized that it really required this sort of laser-sharp focus with very little room for distraction. So while I never experienced a real dilution of my faith, there were certainly many years during which it took a back seat. Amidst the academic accolades, advanced placement exams, extracurricular activities, and summers packed with multiple research projects and volunteer placements, I became increasingly anxious, high-strung, and demonstrated very unhealthy perfectionist tendencies. All of this ultimately manifested in an eating disorder, which I battled for years. So I did get into medical school, and at my most desired program. In fact, I met my soon-to-be husband during my first week of medical school. Fast forward a few years, and I chose to pursue the same 5-year residency program that he had currently been going through, and which would allow me to train to become a forensic pathologist. To that point in my life, academically and professionally, things had seemingly been going my way. I had worked hard and the effort paid off, and I was now able to enjoy the fruits of my labor. Just a couple days before my graduation and prior to starting residency, I gave birth to our firstborn. And right there and then, my life changed forever. The birth of my son was a profoundly transformative experience for me, and he was born during the COVID lockdown, so we had a very sort of uniquely quiet and intimate maternity leave together, and this time also offered a lot of opportunity for reflection. So I realized that my identity had completely and forever shifted. No longer was the pursuit of academic aspirations or individualistic goals on my mind at all. My priority became this little person who was totally and completely dependent upon me. And not only was I responsible for nourishing his body and mind, but I was responsible for nourishing his soul. I had a new life mission, a beautiful and important responsibility. I was endeavoring to raise a saint. So it was during this time that I first felt called to take a long break from medicine. To say goodbye to it all and be able to focus on my family. For another 4 years, including one spent on maternity leave with my daughter, I just couldn't seem to heed that call. So much time, effort, money, so much of my very self had been poured into pursuing this singular goal. Our residency program proved to be a very unforgiving and challenging program, requiring a time and energy commitment that was better suited to someone with no personal life whatsoever. It was turning out to be more of a 24/7 commitment. My husband and I took turns staying at the hospital very late or coming in very early to get the research requirements done that our program had. Many residents took to coming in on the weekends. And it was the type of life that I had lived and was okay living when I was 20 and single. But it just didn't seem appropriate anymore when I was in my late 20s and with 2 small children. The chaos and busyness of that lifestyle really took a significant toll on our family. And the stress that came from the never-ending demands of our program really fueled the majority of our marital conflict. Life was very fast-paced and there wasn't ever any space for peace. I constantly felt guilty and inadequate, and we weren't anywhere close to the sort of quality of life or quality of marriage that my husband and I had once envisioned for ourselves. Furthermore, I felt as if I wasn't the one who was really raising my children. And I realized at one point that that was a feeling that I would have to make peace with and reconcile with and be okay with if I continued to pursue my goals in medicine. So time kept ticking on, and I deeply desired to be there for my children. That was a feeling that never left me. I wanted to be there for their stories, their firsts, their illnesses, for all of the little moments that make life with them so absolutely beautiful. I wanted to be able to create a nurturing environment at home and to engage fully in the daily rhythms of family life. I really came to appreciate the role of a mother as an anchor in a family, being a source of stability for her children, and not being sort of suffocated by professional concerns or always having something in the back of her mind, which is the way I felt during all of my medical training. Motherhood truly is a vocation. It's a sacred calling, a divine mission. Mothers cooperate with God in the creation and care of life. Mothers are instruments of God's love in providing her children with the foundations of faith, virtue, and compassion. And since it's a vocation, it requires self-sacrifice, humility, and a deep devotion. Motherhood's not meant to be easy. We're given this tremendous responsibility in trying to get our spouse and our children to heaven. Now, leaving medicine is a very unorthodox decision. Female role models within medicine are never those who have chosen to pursue something different entirely. So this is not something that happens routinely. But I did it about 7 months ago now, and honestly, I have not looked back. That's not entirely true. I do get a little nostalgic anytime I read in the news about a body being pulled out of Lake Ontario or a couple found dead in their home under suspicious circumstances. In all seriousness, though, reaching this decision was a huge test in discerning God's will for our lives and actually answering that call. God had been knocking on the door of my heart, and it took me 4 years to realize this is a call that needs to be answered. So my advice for everyone here today is to have an open heart, ready and willing to answer whatever God is calling you to do. Whether that's trying for another baby, cutting down hours at work so you can spend more time with your kids, or even starting a Catholic mothers group like I did in the midst of all this craziness. Soften your heart, pray, and continue to ask yourself what God is asking of you. The journey may have more twists and turns than you initially expected. Things may not go according to plan, and there may be tremendous sacrifice, but you will know in your heart when you are pursuing God's will for your life. As a side note, I really do have to give a big shout out to the fantastic moms I've met through my Catholic moms group at St. Teresa's Parish, represented by over 2 tables worth of women here today. They've been so supportive of me as I've navigated these transitions in work and motherhood, always offering a listening ear and sending prayers my way. Being a co-leader of a group featuring such lovely moms is honestly such a piece of cake, even in the midst of all the ups and downs of life. The ministry provides you with absolutely all of the resources, tools, ideas, strategies you could possibly need to run a group successfully and really quite easily. The fact that everything is laid out so beautifully on an easy-to-navigate website means that I'm able to, as a leader, just focus on the outpouring of graces upon graces that seem to flow from every single time we gather. If anyone would like more details about how to start a Catholic mothers group or has any questions for me today, I'm happy to chat. Thank you for listening to my testimonial, and God bless.